It says a guy wants to be motzi shemer, right? He claims his wife was, when he married his wife, that she was not a psula. Now it's interesting, the way, if you read the psukim themselves sounds like he's checking out to see physically if she's a psula or not, right? You know, he says, here's the sheet, and I didn't see any blood, so therefore she's not a psula. Right? So the krave level she's la psulim. The chash lomar, so says more, wait a minute, why do we accept his word? Let's suspect Shema Matzah, maybe he found blood, be bait, and then he intentionally lost it in order to lie about it, right? So says the Gemara, Shehevi Abal Edim, Shezinas, Bo the base of you. He has to be witnesses that she was licentious when she was still in her father's house. Okay. So he has to bring witnesses. In other words, not like Pashup Shah in the Chumash. They just brings the sheet and says there's no blood. He has to bring witnesses that she actually was licentious before while she was still betrothed, and only then can she be put to death as having had illicit relations. Okay?
But he didn't know that before he married her.
Oh, he might have, but he waited to get her till afterwards. But unlikely, right? He just afterwards he hired private eyes, and they produced the evidence.
Retroactively,
right?
Found out.
Yeah. Now. Well, on the other hand, it says that he counters, the father counters and says, what are you talking about? My daughter is a psula, right? She didn't have relations before he married, before him, he was the first guy. Now again, according to Pashup Sham Chumash, he produces a sheet, and it's a bloody sheet. But maybe, wait a minute, who shave you off? Maybe it's a bird's blood which the father brought. I'm sorry, I punctured wrong. Shemadam tzipor, maybe it's a bird's blood, right? So it says more here too. Shehavia of edim lahazim ediabal. The father brings witnesses to prove that the husband's witnesses are edim zoimim. So in fact, in the Chumash it seems like there's a dialogue about the sheets. There's no dialogue about the sheets. And the father brings witnesses, the husband brings witnesses, and then the father brings counter witnesses. That's what really occurs. Okay? And I said, this parsha yeshbo edim, it's got witnesses, that's the husbands. V'zomen, those who undermine them, that's the fathers. V'zomin, and then there are those who undermine the underminers too. How so? Habalomer. The husband says, here witnesses that she was licentious in her father's house. And the father brings witnesses to undermine them. Then the husband brings witnesses to undermine the father's witnesses. So that's the matter of dispute. Then the Korban brings down the psukim, right? Which refer to this. He said the first two psukim we brought. That Lamotzasi Besulim, Ele Besule Biti, and then the husband said, then it says, Memes Haya Adavar, if the matter was true. And that's so about a case where the husband then brought Adam to refute the Adam brought by the father. So the three different levels here. Okay? Upirsu Asimla. Now, getting back to the actual statement about the Upirsu Asimla. This is the last night. So after tonight, we're not going to learn here anymore.
No problem.
Okay. Upirsu Asimla. They're going to spread. I'm sure he's happy about it. Upirsu Asimla. They're going to. They spread the sheets, right? Hakol mashal. This is all a mashal. This is all just a analogy. It's not for real. Tani Rabbi Shmuel, and Rabbi Shmuel said, "Zecha mishlosha mikraya shanim remember Torah b'mashal." These are one of the three incidents Torah. I don't remember this from anywhere in the Bavli, but even though there's a little bit there's a sign here, a note. I don't think it's actually in Bavli in this language. Zecha mishlosha mikraya remember Torah is one of the three instances of Torah b'mashal, where it's an analogy. It's a parable. Here it says, Uparsa Simla, they spread the sheet. The Bavli Taka says Uparsa Simla means they make it clear as if they spread the sheet. That the Bavli does bring down, that this is a mashal, it's not literal that they spread the sheet. But the next two, I don't believe the Bavli brings down this context, even though it's obvious that they're true as well. It says, if you hit somebody, and he dies from the wound, then you're chayiv misa, right? Even if he lingers, you're chayiv misa. What's the exception? When do you not chayiv misa? Im yokum, if he rises, v'yisach b'chutza mishanto, and goes out on his cane, v'nika amakeh, then the person who smote him is exempt, because obviously he was healed enough that we can't say die because of the wound he got. So what did you think? That the one guy, the person who was wounded, should be walking in the marketplace for Allah and the other guy is killed? Because of him, despite that? How could that be? So what does it mean? It's not that we're looking whether he gets healed walking in the marketplace or not walking in the marketplace. That's not the criterion. Rather, al mishato means al burio. If he becomes healed, then we don't kill the person who wounded him. If he doesn't become healed, then we kill the person who wounded him. And that, of course, has to do with healing, not to the point that the person not the point the person is totally capable of doing everything he was able to do before. But as long as he doesn't die from this wound, even a lingering death, then we exempt the person who hit him. So wobbles outside on his cane is a metaphor saying that we know that the death did not occur as a result of this wound. Also, the third case is imzarcha shemesh olav damim lo. It says if you have a burglar who's burgling your house, but the sun shines on him and you kill the guy anyway, so then you're liable for his death. So what does it mean the sun shone on him? Does the sun only shine on him? Right? What does that mean? Rather, it's also a mashal, it's a parable. What's the unique quality of the sun shining? It brings peace to all the people of the world. Ab says so too. If you know that this burglar is not going to kill you, he's at peace with you, and you kill him anyway, I raise the chayiv, you're liable for killing him. And the classic case which Chazal says to tell you about is when a son comes to burgle his son's piggy bank, right? So then obviously he doesn't mean to kill him, and therefore if the son kills him, the son is liable for that.
So there's a riot for the sad syndrome, because people that don't have, seasonal affective disorder, they don't have shalom.
They don't have son, then you don't have shalom. That's right, very good. Says what Tanya Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Omer. Now, let's say the words are literal, meaning that you actually have to spread the sheets. What does it mean that the words are literal? Rabbi Yisrael said, "Lo mein chayav ad sheyichdos." He's not chayav. The husband is not chayav for having spread bin motzi shemra, having said bad things about the girl. Ad sheyichdos, until he marries her with chuppah. V'yivol not has relations with her. V'yito tais b'sulim, and claims she wasn't a b'sula. Upirsu asimla, and they. What does it mean? Pirsu asimla. Losov dover pirsu asimla. Pirsu asim. Actually, Rabbi Yosef Rabun says it's literal, right? Now you have to, as the times b'sulim, not just Adam. He has to claim there were no b'sulim. However, the other perspective is a pirsu asimla. Losov davar pirsu asimla don't have to spread the sheet. El achis chavra darin kasimla, but rather the matter should become clear as if it's a spreadsheet. So the bottom line is that Rabbi Yossi Rabun says there actually has to be a tiny basulim. The Gemara says not there is. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says there actually has to be a tiny basulim. It has to be dvarim k'ksavan. But Rabbi Yossi Rabun is kind to qualify. Even according to him, it doesn't mean they actually have to spread the sheet. What it means is you have to clarify whether she's a psula or not. In other words, until now we thought the quote question just concerns whether there were edim about her having been mizaneh while she was betrothed. And that whether she's a psula now or not is not germane at all. But they want to say, no, it works on two levels. The Varik Ksava means he has to bring witnesses that she was mizaneh, and he also has to claim that now she was not a psula. He has to do both.
But one should automatically include the other. If she was mizana, then of course there's no pasulim.
Right, but that's why he says Dvarim Keksavan, that nevertheless, for some reason, the Gezeres HaKosav was that it has to be that he claims that she's not a pasulim.
Unless she was mizana Shelo Kedarka.
Yeah, maybe Shelo Kedarka, something like that. It could be. So therefore, he has to have had relations with her in order to be able to claim that she was actually not a pasulah. Okay? Says the Gemara, Rav Asya Mar Pirsa Simla. They spread the sheets. How does he explain that? He says they have to clarify as follows. Lola Meina Edim Niskolim. The witnesses are not stoned for having lied about the girl. Now, if the Edom lied, two ramifications occur, right? They get stoned because they're Edom, so they plotted to kill the girl, right? And besides that, the husband gets flogged and has to pay $100. Okay, that's besides the Edom getting killed. The husband has to get flogged and pay $100. That's all in the Chumash, right? So he says, the witnesses are not stoned, nor does the husband get flogged, nor does he pay $100. Until they say the witnesses the father brings. Imanu hayu, that the witnesses of the husband which were with us, in so-and-so place. And they also have to say, we know that the husband hired them. In other words, in order for the husband to have to pay the $100 and also be flogged, we have the Edom will come to testify against him. Have to say, you should know that he hired these witnesses for this purpose. It's not just that they came on their own; that they volunteered. They have to be hired for this purpose. Okay.
Now, if they only say the first half and not the second half,
so that's what I was about to say. Amri manu hayu b'makom ploni, and it says it's finding word should be hayu. It's a gilin of Ephraim. They said they ate him with us, so they're lying. They ate him. They're going to be put to death. However, but he didn't testify that the husband hired them. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Bun, and Rabbi Yochanan b'shem Rishim Bar Yochai. Say the Shari Torah says it's so changed because Rabbi Yochanan say things named Rish Lakish. So Rabbi Yochanan named Rishim Bar Yochai. Nemakat Shuma. It says here placing an assessment. V'nemar lahalon shuma, and it says later placing assessment. In other words, it says also he says here by lo tasimro of neshech. It says by interest. I should have actually underlined that. But Rib is right. Thank you. So it says ma suma shnemer lahalam mamon. Just like over there, it says it has to do with money, right? Don't charge interest. Afkan suma. So too it's over here when it says that v'sam lo alilos dvarim, right? That he placed for a plot. And how does placing mean? It means placement via cash, because he must have paid for the placement.
Bottom line.
Okay, right. Bottom line. Vatani, then we learn. Vatani, I think, is actually a proof. It's a statement. But Tanya, we learned also in a Brisa that lo amar lo edim, if he didn't say to the witnesses, bo ve'iduni, come and testify for me, aim bo ve'elam, they came on their own. He doesn't have to pay, he doesn't get flogged, because it has to be that he hired them.
But they still get killed.
Oh yeah, Elohi, that's what it says. Elohi ozamamea. Whichever one actually stands, either that she was mizana or that they plotted against her, whichever one actually stands, they go get stoned. Actually, it was a kasher. Sorry, kasher means amar. It sounds like the only reason why he's doesn't get flogged and pay $100 is because he didn't tell the witnesses to come. Amar. But if he did tell him to come, even if he didn't pay them, Kamisha Sochan sounds like it's sufficient just to ask him to come in without paying. And that the Gemara actually doesn't answer. It seems like even if you just told them to come, that actually paying them, that would be sufficient to make you chayiv Malkus and 100% the fine. Right. So says the Gemara, another question. Hevi the father brings two sets of witnesses. It's an interesting case. The father brings two witnesses against the husband. What are the two sets of witnesses? One says that the witnesses are the husband with us, b'mokum ploini, in so and so place. So obviously you guys are lying. And the others say abal sochan lo'ideu sheker. So they actually divide up the tasks. One of them says that the Edom lied. The other says that the husband to hire the witnesses, right? Pshita, it's obvious. If the Edom were trying to be Zomem, the husband's Edom. If they themselves are trying to be Edom Zomem, so what happens to them?
They're skila.
They're skila, right? And the Niskalim, right? Osa Trumma, you want to you Makapun in Skolim. Vosa Trumma, Baal Sochin Loide Sheker. What about the ones who said that the husband.
They should be fined to get flogged.
Right. They in fact, Lokim Nosi Measela. So says, so what's the proof here? We see quite clearly that. What do we see here? I forgot. No, there's not another proof. Just that this is another case.
Now, what if there was only one set of eidim, and we said both, and the husband counters with these other eidim? So there's cumulative.
We're getting there. No, we're getting there. That's right there. So I thought this was another kasha, but it's not a kasha. We proved it. We had a kasha. It sounded like even if he just tells the eidim to come, that's enough. Even if he doesn't rent them out. Mm-hmm. And then we went to this separate case here. Okay. Now, Rabbi Yossi Rabun actually argues. He says you can't divide them up. He says v'lo ayidei. Listen. V'lo ayidei elu, and it should be these are changed made by the carbonator. V'lo ayidei elu v'al yidei elu isn't by both. It should be lokev and nosein me'asela. In other words, how does the husband become required to give the $100 and be flogged? Because he brought Eidu Sheker.
Because he offered to pay them.
No. Not just offer to pay them, but you actually have to bring them. In other words, the only way the husband becomes $100 is if he paid them, hired Eidim. So how hired Eidu Sheker? So you need, in order to make the husband chayav malchus and mamon, you actually have to have Eidim who testify that there were Eidu Sheker and that he hired these Eidu Sheker.
Yeah.
So therefore, how can you divide it up and say is that the witnesses who came and to testify that he hired these witnesses and that they themselves get Malchus and Mammon, that's not enough. In order for them to be able to get Malchus and Mammon, they have to be able to testify not just that he hired witnesses, but that those witnesses were actually lying. So they're not full Eidim Zomim on their own. See, the witnesses who came and said those Eidim were lying. On their own, and they themselves are lying, of course. On their own, those Eidim are completely Eidim Zomim because they want to put the first witnesses to death, right? But in a case where the Eidim Zomim come against the husband, and only against him, to testify that he lied and he hired false witnesses, that's still not Mechayev. Excuse me, it's still Mechayev them. It still wouldn't even be Mechayev the husband, unless you have Eidim also that the Eidim lied. Right? So therefore, if that's the case, these Eidim Zomim who plot against the husband can say, yes, it's true he plotted against the husband, but we didn't do the full deed of convicting the husband. Because you need the other group of witnesses as well, who testify that they themselves are false witnesses. So therefore you can't be Mechayev us, Kasher Zamam, because we didn't complete the Avera on our own. And Kasher Zamam is only when we did a complete evil thing on our own without having to come on to any other set of witnesses.
Yeah, I get it for that.
You don't like it?
No.
Well, that's what it says.
It's like in Shabbos, if you need Zeyachov.
Right, but here it's
yeah.
That's an interesting comparison. You're right. If you compared it that way, then you'd be right. But that's not what the Gemara is saying.
Right.
So, right here, Sir Rabun. These witnesses who testified against the husband, they can't get kasher zoma because they didn't do the entire thing. Rather, they go get malchus mishum lo sana b'yachayit shakar. Only get malchus and not mammon because of the prohibition of swearing, testifying falsely, but not because of kasher zoma. So you understand it, but you don't like it, right?
Yeah.
That's good enough, right? No, Eidim Zomim, they'll get malchus anyway. Eidim Zomim, we'll learn at the beginning of malchus. Eidim Zomim get malchus anyway. Right, Bumberchi Rabbi Zira. Bumberchi asked for Rabbi Zira, Heavy of Eidim Lahazim Eidei Abal. Now, this is quite interesting. The husband brings witnesses to prove that the father brings witnesses. To prove that the husband's witnesses are false. Right? Who's Me'edei of? And then the father's witnesses are found to be lying. So it should be Lokin, Venosni Me'asela, they get flogged, and have to pay $100. B'shlosha, with 3 dayanim. However, it should be Viniskolim, they're also flogged, they're also
yeah, so
killed.
That's my shiloh.
They're also killed by Srim Shloisha. So it's not Kilin Rabbaneh. So the first explain why it's not Kilin Rabbaneh. Because Kilin Rabbaneh is when I'm chayiv to one person, as a result of one person, 2 chiyuvim, one of which is mom and the other which is misa. But here, who are they chayiv to Malkus and Mama? To the husband. To whom are they chayiv misa? Because the Eidim Zomim. So actually we can get him for both. Okay? And that hypothetically, the truth is that, of course, maybe one basin will convict and one won't. So actually, we could put him, and that's a chiddush more. They can go to 2 separate courts. A court of 3 for what they sought to impose on the husband, the Malkus and the Moman, and a court of 23 for what they sought to impose on the Eidim Zomim, right? Which was on the Eidim, which is Skila, right? So he said, so that's what. Boom Barchi asked Rabbi Yosef, is that in fact the way it works? He said, no, I don't like that. Ilu lo huzmu edeav. If the father's witnesses were not found to be Eidim Zomim, lo nimtza ba'al loike v'noisein. Oh no, he does like it. Rabbi Zir agrees with him. Yes, Rabbi Zir agrees with him. He says, later on we'll have the people disagree. Rabbi Zir agrees. He says, if the father's witnesses would not have found to be Eidim Zomim, right? The husband himself, where would he get flogged and have to pay $100? B'shloisha, in a court of 3. He would not have had to gone for a court. For the husband, he wouldn't have gone for a court of 23. For his Eidim, the Eidim would have been killed in a court of 23. So actually, had Eidim Zomim not been brought by the father against the husband, had Eidim Zomim not been brought by the husband back on the father's witnesses, and the father's witnesses had stood and therefore convicted the first witnesses and the husband, so the husband would have gotten his comeuppance in a court of 3. And his Eidim would have gotten their comeuppance in a court of 20 because that was capital crime. So therefore, since that din itself would have been divided into, so too when now you're done, the father's false witnesses, you can divide their court case in 2 and have to do one aspect of them a court of 3 and the other aspect in a court of 23.
Isn't that rather obvious?
No, somebody's actually going to argue. So, Sav Rabbi Zira, Shnei Dinim, right? So Rabbi Zira is a two separate court case. Rabbi Yerushalmi Kesuvos argues. He says, Kula din echadu. It's all one din. They all speak on the court of 23. Okay, the whole thing. Says Mar Masisa Pli Ravo. It seems like the following Brisa argues with Rabbi Yavo. The Brisa says, El Ziknei Ir, you take them to the elders of the city. Zeh Beis Shel Shlosha, that's a court of 3. Hasha'ara to the gate. Zeh Beis Shel Srim Shlosha. So it seems like two separate courts. So Pastor Rameir, what does Ravo do with this? He holds that this is going to look Rameir. The Rameir Lokim Mishalim. Now the Ritbaz takes out, or he says it's not necessary to have the words Rameir Omer Lokim Mishalim. Because Rameir holds that you need that you can separate the halachas of 23 and 3, and I hold you can't separate the halachas. I Rabbi Yavo say that to Rabban argue Rameir. But I was thinking these words I don't like taking out. They seem to be really integral to the text. And I would say like this. I think I have a nice shot in this. Rameir holds that Eidim Zomim are Lokim Mishalim, that the Motzi Shem is a Lokim Mishalim, but not just that the Motzi Shem is Lokim Mishalim. Rameir holds that Kol Tarkula like a Mishalim. He holds that you learn from Motzi Shem to all cases in Torah that it's possible to have cases where guys will get both Malkus and have to pay. Rabbanan arguing him, Mr. Mesech the Malkus. Rabbanan say no, Motzi Shem is a Chiddush. I forget why it's a Chiddush, but it's a Chiddush. You remember why it's a Chiddush? What? The first pair, right? Why Motzi Shem is a Chiddush. So since a Chiddush, Because Lokum Mishalim?
Yeah.
Oh, Rameir holds Lokum Mishalim and Kol Torah, though.
Yeah.
Oh, he learns. Oh, right. Rameir learns that from Adam Zomin that Lokum Mishalim and Kol Torah Kula. And therefore, Moti Shemer is not a Chiddush. Rabban hold Adam Zomim. You can't learn that from Adam Zomim because Adam Zomim itself is a Chiddush, and therefore Moti Shemer is also a Chiddush, or something like that. But bottom line is, if you hold Rameir that Lokum Mishalim is a normal standard operating procedure, so that means Moti Shemer certain aspects of which are normal standard operating procedure, right? And therefore, you can divide it into 23. For the standard operating procedures, you do a court of 3. For the non-standard procedures, which are, of course, the death penalty, you go to a court of 23. But Rabbanan hold, no place else in Torah are you Lokum Mishalim. This is unique. En l'chabor l'chidusho. Only Moti Shemer, not anywhere else, unless the Torah actually specifies, which is a rarity, but only Moti Shemer. So they say, Moti Shemer is a singularity. If it's a singularity, then it's a singularity in all its aspects. And therefore, if part of it is in 23, then the whole thing is in 23. So Rameir holds that all over Torah, Lokum Mishalim holds Moti Shemer is not, in its Lokum Mishalim aspect, is not uniquely different than any other place in Torah, because the holds Lokum Mishalim is possible everywhere. So therefore, since it's a normal procedure, for that part of the procedure, you can use 3, you don't need 23. But Rabbanan hold that Lokum Mishalim is a part of the singularity of Moti Shemer, of the unique quality of it, because nowhere else do you find Lokum Mishalim except for Moti Shemer. So therefore, since it's part of the singularity of Moti Shemer, and Moti Shemer in some aspects of it needs 23, that 23 extends to this part as well, as part and parcel of the unique essence of Moti Shemer. Okay? Tamati, we learned over there. Asir machlokas by ones v'amfata v'moti Shemer. And we have ones v'amfata, right, the case of rape and seduction, or Moti Shemer, they're all b'shlosha, divrei Meir. They're all judged by 3. Now, that makes sense because they're all of course it makes sense. They're vis-a-vis the fine aspect, right? The payment. The chomer Moti Shemer b'shlosha. Moti Shemer needs 23 in neishiesh b'din nefesh because it could come to capital case, right? Rabbi Mona said it sounds like machlokas by Moti Shemer, right? Rabbi Mona argues. Rabbi Mona says no, by Moti Shemer they have no machlokas. But now Marasa pleading Rabbi Meir pleading. The machlokas is about a girl who was betrothed, not a Moti Shemer. A girl was betrothed and Adam came and said that she was licentious intentionally. So Omer, listen, there are 2 aspects here. There's 2 aspects. Bizman Hazeh is only one aspect. One aspect, Bizman Hazeh. When we have no death penalty, what can we do to a girl who is Mizana like this? Nothing, right?
Forbid it to a coin.
No. But you can make her lose a ksuva.
Oh.
Well, forbid her to a coin too, but that's not a court case. We'll make her lose a ksuva. So Rameir divides up those 2 things. Says, you can judge her on a ksuva in 3. If you need scaleless, the stoner Besim Shosha requires 23. But Chomer say, look, Mokum Shini scaleless, in the same court which she's going to be stoned, Shomi Mafsedis Ksuvasa. It's got to be the same because it's one halach. It's 2 sides of the same coin. You can't divide between the 2. So actually, the machlokas Rameir Rabbanan was not by Moti Shemer according to Ramona, but was a machlokas by Nara Murasa, right? Avo, whoever continues Ramona, but Moti Shemer, in the case of Moti Shemer, Kol Amamoidu, both Rameir and Rabbanan agree. It should be Delo, the Gilin of Rhyme says. Delo Mokum She'edim Niskolim Shama Ba'al Loikim Noisim Me'osela. It's not the same place. Because in an Aramurasa, so then you can have, say, losing the Ksuva and being stoned, they're 2 sides of the same coin. But by Motzi Shemer, it's not 2 sides of the same coin, because the Edim are one halacha, and the Baal is another halacha. So therefore, it's definitely 2 separate halachas. That's what we say. Even Rameir agrees that, even Rabbanan agrees it's 2 separate halachas there. Why? Because it's obviously 2 very distinct areas.
Well, it's two people involved.
Right, that's what I meant to say. It's 2 people. Right. That's amazing to say. So he said everybody agrees. Amalei Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Ribun. So Yosef Ribun attacked Rabbi Mani. He said, "Give me a break. Ain't in the lo tenisa plina on that which is not mentioned." They argue. In other words, it says they argue about Einis and Mefata Moiti Shemra. Don't say Nara Marosa there. How can you change the case from what the case price is specified to something price that doesn't specify? Which is, of course, not Keferach, because it's only a Brisa. but nonetheless he got upset at him. Elam Motzi Shemra, please. But he upset and said they argue about Motzi Shemra. Meir Loikav Neisei Meir Sela B'Shloisha Ve'im Skolim B'Esrim B'Shloisha divided up in two. The Malchus and Mammon is 3, and the Skil is 23. Rabbanan say Malkum Shein Miskolim, wherever the witnesses are stoned, meaning in 23. Habau Loikav Neisei Meir Sela. That's where the husband gets flogged and gives $100 in the same basin. Ava Benara Murasa, but by Nara Murasa, Kol Amamoidu, everybody agrees. Mokum Shniskeles, in the same court of 23 where she's stoned, Shamav says Ksuvos, that's what she loses Ksuva. Vasar Raimona comes and Raimona holds that they argue by Namros and not by Motzi Shemra. He holds it should be like Rabbi Avo, that by Motzi Shemra it's all ooh, bad move on my part. I changed it because Carmen A changes it, but it's not according to the Gillian Ephraim. We wouldn't change it. So let me just, before I confuse you. So Raimona holds like Rabbi Zira. The Raimona holds you divide up Motzi Shemra. It's Nara Maros, you don't divide. There it's a machlokas, he said. By my Motzi Shemra, everybody divides up into 2 courts. That's like Rabbi Zira, who said it's 2 separate courts because it's 2 separate people. Rabbi Yosef Rabbeinu says that that Motzi Shemra, according to Rabbanan, it's all in 1 court, right? Mokum Shein Miskolim Shama Baal Loika, it's all in 1 court. That's like Rabbi Avo, who said back here it's all in 1 court. So we have a consistent machlokas across two sets of Amoraim. One set of Rabbi Mon and Rabbi Zira both hold it's 2 separate courts for Eidim Zomim and for the Eidim and for the Baal, and Rabbi Boon and Rabbi Avo both hold it's the same court for the Eidim Zomim and for the Baal. Okay, Rabbi Yosef Boon and Rabbi Mon. So now one goes on to a new thing. Lo Lamein Baal Loika. The husband does not get malchus, Velono say Me'asalan doesn't pay, until the Edom are worthy of being stoned to death. Now, they don't have to actually be stoned, but they have to be worthy of stoning, because we have to be able to prove that they're fully Edom Zomim. Knas Amos Haimus Chayv. So when does the husband become Chayv in Knas? Is it from the moment he lied, or is it only from the moment Basin told him, Paskin, he's a liar? And of course, Nafkamina is whether he, when he died, whether his heirs have to pay, when did he become Chayiv and Knas? He became Chayiv and Knas from the time that he lied, so then his heirs have to pay if he dies. He becomes Chayiv and Knas only from the time that he stood in court. If he never made the court, so then his heirs would not have to pay his fine on his behalf, right? So Rabbi Yonaman B'Sof, from the time he goes to court. Rabbi Yosef Marishar Rishona, from the moment that he lied. Mates Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef asks Rabbi Yonah. Rabbi Yosef one says it's from the beginning. Rabbi Yonah says it's at the end. So according to you, it says that's when you get to court. Lokiv and no saying Mea Sela is interesting disproof. He says, look it. The Malchus and the $100 are in 3, right? The Vedim is calling B'chav Gimel, but the witnesses are stoned in 23, right? So it's 2 separate halachas, right? It's a halacha of 3 for the it's a halacha of 3 for the husband, and a halacha of 23 for the Edom, right? If they're separate. Now the Edom, of course, only become chayav from the time that they're proven to be Edom Zomim, right? So if they're 2 separate halachas, the husband's devolves at the beginning, and the Edom Zomim is only later on when they're proved to be Edom Zomim in court. So you can understand that the husband's halacha is separate, 3, and the Edom Zomim's halacha is separate, 23, because they're 2 separate times. But if they both come together, if they're both basof, if the husband's chiv also devolves only at the end when he comes to court, so then they should all have the same court appearance. In front of whom?
23.
In front of 23. So the fact that a husband's court appearance in front of 3 is a kasha on you. Because if it all happens at the same time, when the Edom are judged, so then it should be 23, both for the husband and for the Edom. Okay? So I remember said, Afilu Rabbi Yossi. And here the Korban Gilin Ephraim changes to Rabbi. Even Rabbi Yossi, my Rebbe, ask your Maksha the question. I can have a question. A very interesting question. Commandam, according to opinion, holds Eidim Zomin Tzrichim Hasroya. There's such opinion, Eidim Zomin have to be warned. V'lo Yisra B'hen. We don't pass it. We pass Eidim Zomin don't require Hasroya. If they lie, we kill them whether they got warning or not. You would warn them when they come to court and say, Eidim, be careful not to be Eidim Zomin. It's Surah Safek. It's a problem of Surah Safek. Then maybe that, yeah, but okay, we're not dealing with that issue right now. So we warn. We say, Eidim, don't be zoned. Okay, so now, the Eidim of the Baal come to court. The Eidim of the what you call, not of the Baal. The Eidim of the Baal come to court. Okay?
Eidim of the father.
No, the Eidim of the father come to court, right. The Eidim of the father come to court. Below Rabbi, didn't get, and he didn't warn them. Okay? So then, and they turned out to be lying. So they get, no, 1 second. No. The Eidim of the husband. The Eidim of the husband come to court with the husband. And the husband hired them, right? And they were liars, right?
Okay, this is the very first set.
But you didn't give them Hasra. Now, so they're not going to be put to death. Right? Because you didn't warn them ahead of time. But the husband's still going to have to pay $100 and get what you call it? $100 and get Malchus, right? That's what it says. Commander so he would get Malchus and pay $100 and 3. Va'edim, it should be according to Gilin Ephraim, even though the Eidim are not getting their Malchus for 23. Okay? Now, the question is, what he means to ask is that in this case, 1 second. Yeah, that's a little bit convoluted. The way it works is like this. Eidim Zomim, the reason why the husband's put to death, the reason why the husband has to pay is because the Eidim are going to lie and want to put her to death, right? If the Eidim Zomim didn't get Asra, can they put him to death?
According to what we're learning, no.
Because it's Eidu Shiyata Yachal Azima. You cannot put them, if you can't put them to death, they can put the girl to death. Right?
If you can't, right.
If they can't put the girl to death, you can't put them to death either.
Right.
I'm sorry, the opposite. If you can't put them to death, they can't put the girl to death. So it's the only time Eidim can impose a penalty is when we found their Eidim Zomim, we impose the same penalty on them. Right? So if Eidim Zomim require Asra, that means I must, before Eidim come to court and want to impose a halacha with their testimony, I have to tell them, hey, Eidim, if you guys lie, then we're going to put you to death, just like you want to put them to death. If we don't tell them that, not only are they not put to death, but the person against whom they testify can't be put to death.
Well, we wouldn't be putting her to bed death because we've proven them to be Zomim.
Right, but if we cannot put them to death, even in theory, so then we can't put her to death either. Okay? It's catch-22, right? Mm-hmm. If you can't put him to death, he died today.
Well,
so catch-22, Joe died today.
He did?
Yeah, Joseph Heller. It's on the front page of the Times today. He didn't get to see the Times, huh?
No.
I'm sorry, he was in the Tribune, too. Anyway, so I never read the book, but it's just
wasn't that good a book.
Okay. Yeah. So, did he actually make up the word?
Yeah.
He made it up?
Yeah, he made it up.
Okay. So I was famous for that. So so if you have a case where the Eidim Zomim must be told that you're going to be put to death if you're lying about this, in order for them to be able to have the impact of putting somebody to death. Because they have to be subject to the penalty of kasher zomam in order to be believed.
Right.
Okay, so here, his question like this. You have Eidim Zomim who didn't get Asra, so they can't put the girl to death, right? Because they're not going to be put to death.
On a technicality.
On a technicality, true. But nevertheless, the husband's got to pay, the guy has to pay the... with a basin of 3, but lokev anoise me'asela b'shlosha. He's going to have to get malchus and bring the he's going to have to get malchus and and pay the $100, right? Now, if you're going to say that the chiyuv is mishor rishoina, not from the time you go to court, you're going to say like Rabbi Yoina said, like Rabbi Yossi said, that the chiyuv is from the first moment that he brings the witnesses. Did he bring witnesses?
Well, he told them to come.
Yeah, but did he bring witnesses?
They came on their own.
Are they witnesses?
No, because of the technicality.
Right.
Witnesses.
So how can he become chayav from the first moment? In order to do that, he's got to bring witnesses which can put her to death.
Yes.
He didn't bring witnesses which could put her to death. So how could he possibly be chayav for that? It's part of the catch-22, right? Exactly.
As it does.
Right. So how can so you can't say it comes from Mishor Rishona because he didn't. Shor Rishona would imply that he met all the criteria at that point by bringing lying witnesses that could have put her to death, but they couldn't have put her to death. So how can be a chayav knas Mishor Rishona? So it's even a kash Rabbi Yossi. How do you have such a knas? So it says, and knas is such a case, right? If you go to Mishor Rishon, it means he has to meet all the criteria at that moment and bring witnesses, hire witnesses, which can put it to death, but they can't. So how is he chayav knas? So it says more a very simple answer. Amar Rabbi Avmori, Rabbi Avmori said, Man damar dukain, and a chayav who says in such a case chayav knas. Maybe it's only chayav knas if he brings witnesses who received hasra and therefore potentially would put the girl to death. You're right. Could be we hold Mishar Rishayna, and the Chayav from the first moment he brings the witnesses, precisely because it's only in such a case where he comes Chayav when he brings witnesses which did receive Asra, and therefore we're liable to put her to death. Okay, let's the rest of it goes very quickly. We'll go to the Mishnah here. Rabbi Yossi, you up to it?
Yeah.
Rabbi Yossi Chanina says, now here's a big should be Moti Shema. Moti Shema Ali Soima. Potter, not also Potter, but Motzi Shema. I call the girl who he married, and then spread rumors about was an orphan. She had no father, so who gets $100? Nobody. Mm-hmm. It's not find the girl. There's no father. Get $100. It only goes to fathers. And this is like Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Yosef Glili holds also you're out of town for this. But if somebody rapes or seduces a girl who's a Yisoma, there's also no money. There has to be a father in order for you to let money go. Rabbi Kivas holds that by a girl, somebody rapes or seduces a Yisoma, Yesha Knas Uknas La'atzma, that there is a fine and the fine goes to her. So too by Moti Shema, there'll be a fine and the fine goes to her. Rabbi Yosef says, Masnisa Amar Kain. Our Mishnah says this. It says, Ein la Pesach Beisav. It says that a girl who's a Gyoris doesn't have opening of her father's house, and nor does she get $100. So that's what it says by Gyoris. So why didn't it tell so much bigger chiddush by Yisoima that there's no $100? So if that's a Gyoris, which is a more rare case, it doesn't say Yisoima. So it must be Yisoima does get $100, like Rabbi Akiva said. Okay, Rabbi Ani Rabbi Shua, that's what it tells the case of Gyoris, not the case of Yisoma. Rabbi Ani Rabbi Shua Levi Tarvein Omer, they both said Amoti Shema al Ktana Potter. If you married a Ktana, obviously your father married her off, then you're exempt. Why? Because she would never be put to death. Because even if she was Mizaneh, she was a Ktana, so she's not put to death. It's only, as we said a few moments ago, it's only if you brought witnesses which potentially would have put the girl to death, that then for the Motzi Shema you have to pay the $100, but otherwise you don't have to. Okay, Rabbi Yeshua said, V'yos, it's not true, it makes sense. Let's say it was an adult woman, but there was no Asura. The Edom who came said, yes, we know she was Mizana, but we didn't give her Asura, we didn't warn her about it. So the Shema Klumu, do you think she gets, in that case, do you think there would be $100? There wouldn't be $100 there either, right? Because they never want to put her to death, because he didn't testify that she did intentionally, right? And a young child, even if they did give her warning, she's standing out to an adult who didn't get warning, and therefore they're off the hook. Rabbi Zin, Rabbi Shem, Rabbi Baruch Hu said, Achva, she doesn't get stoned unless she's, at the time she's judged, she's still a nara. Otherwise, she'll just get chenek like a Bulgarian. She'll just get suffocated. A much lighter death. She won't get stoned, right? My time, why? It says, they have to take out, they take her out, she still has to be a nara. Says Marvatani. I think this is a proof. Vatani, and this is Vatani. This is what we learned. Rabbi Chia, Vatani Chia taught us. Zinas ba'oda be'beisavia. If she was licentious while she was still in her father's house, mishabagra, and once she became a bogeres, she became an adult. Hotil Hashem Ra. He spoke about her bad. Nevertheless, since at the time that he did it, she was no longer a nara. Aino lokev, aino nosim me'asela. There's no malchus and no me'asela. Ohi ozam me'akdim me'eskila. Somebody's going to get stoned. Either she because she was mezana, or the Aiden because they lied. But nobody gets the nobody gets the pay. So I thought this was a kasha, but I don't see what the kasha is.
And why don't they have to pay? Because she's Bulgaris already?
No, they don't have to pay. No, the question's like this. The question says, Zina Boda Beisavio Shabrago Tzia Shemala. It sounds that the only reason why he's exempt from $100 is because he was Moti Shema when she was a Bulgaris. Right. What happens to Moti Shema while she was still a Nara?
The Maisa occurred
while she was still a Nara, and he was Moti Shema when he was a Nara, but they only came to court afterwards. So it sounds like in that case she does get the $100, right?
Because she's now a Bulgaris and she's...
No, because she was a Bulgaris. The premise we began with is a girl who was a Nara at the time of the episode, but then by the time they get to court she becomes a Bulgaris, she doesn't get the $100.
She cannot
get the $100, right? So Gemara's Kasha is what about here? It says that if a girl is a Nara at the time of the episode, right? Mm-hmm. And at the time, then she becomes a Begaris by the time he's Motzi Shemra, so then she doesn't get the $100. But it sounds like as long as he was Motzi Shemra, she was still Nara, even if they only got to court by the time she was a Bulgaris, so she still gets the $100. That's the kasha, right?
So it's when you file your claim.
It's when you file, the Gemara's Havamina, the Gemara's initial premise, Rav Adar could claim that it goes by filing the claim, right? As long as you file the claim when you're Nara, you're okay, right? Yeah. However, here it sounds like one second. No, Rav Adar says even if it goes by when the episode is, and even if you file a claim, she has to be a Nara the whole time. As long as some component is after she's a Nara, it's no good. Right?
Even going to court,
right? But he says, as long as you went to court by the time before she became a Bulgaris, even if the execution of the halacha was afterwards, so still you could pay the $100, right? So he says, even the execution has to be while she's still a Nara in order to fit the criteria of skila if she's guilty, or of $100 if she's not guilty. But that's Rav Adar Brachma. We ask Kasher Brayso here, which says that no, the execution could be when she was a Bulgaris, and then she still gets skila or still get the $100 as long as the claim was filed when she was still a Nara. Okay, so that's the one's question. It's he said that even the execution was a Nara, and the Rav Chia said no, the execution can be after she's an adult. Also, Masnisa following Brayso Mapliga Rav Adar Brachma. This is Rav Adar Brachma. It says Mishnik Mardino. A case of a Ben Sora Mora. Okay? He fled. After they passed him, they should be put to death. And then his hair filled in, meaning he became an adult. So nevertheless, when they catch him, he's put to death. So we see, no matter how much later, there's no statute of limitations. Mm-hmm. So how can we say there's statute of limitations over here by a Bulgaris? Then once she becomes an adult, she can't be put to death by skila, only by chenek. The statute of limitations, there's no statute of limtations. Says Mar Tamon, it's different. Over there at Yochel Meimar Votzil Esanara Shazines. When it says you have to take out the girl to be killed, can you say it's the girl who was only a girl at the time she was mezaneh, even though now she's an adult? It says Votzil Esanara. At the time of the execution of the halacha, she's got to still be a nara. There's no way around that language. So that's what he says. It's got to be that she's still not at the time of the execution. However, Islach Meimaracha, but does it say here, Votziu Osoas Haben? Does it say, take out the kid to stone him? By Ben Tzormora, just says, take out the guy. It says, Votziu Oso. So that's why he says, by Nara, but by Motzi Shema, it says, Votziu Sanara. So it means that at the time of the execution, she has to be an arrow. Here it just says, Votziu Oso. So it means that even if he's already an adult, you could do the same thing to him. Okay? Tani, Nara Marasa Shazinas. A woman who was a Nara Marasa, who was Mizana, Soklin also a Pesach Beis Avi, you stone her at the opening of her father's house. Ain't la Pesach Beis Avi, if she doesn't have opening of her father's house, Soklin also a Mokum Shazinas. You do it in a place where she was licentious. He might say Yerushalmi Goyim, it was the city of Goyim, I guess it's a Chil Hashem. Soklin also a Pesach Beis Avi, you stone her at the opening of court. Vovei Avodah similarly, a person was idolatrous. Soklin also a Mokum Shavan. You stone him where he did the Avodah Zarah. You might say Yerushalmi Goyim is a city of Goyim, Soklin also a Pesach Beis Avi, do the opening of court. There's more how can you stone people at the opening of court? For a time, Rabbi Chia teaches us, it says take the blasphemer outside the camp and stone him there. Basically, if the teacher's basins in the camp, who bases kilo, but the stoning place and chutz is outside the camp. And whole Masechus Sanhedrin, it says you always take him outside the camp to stone him. So what is this Pesach based in? Rabbi Yezer says Shani. These halachas are taka different. These two. Who shar shekilkebo. In these two halachas, Namros and Avodah Zarah, we paskin. It says bisharecha in their gates. So who shar shekilbo in the gate where they committed the avera? Shar shinzbo is the gate where they found him. Who shar shinabo, that's the gate where they judge him. Shar shinitzkabo in the gate where they put him to death. Either him or her, depending on whether it's Avodah Zarah or Namrosa. Why? Ki Osten Nevola Bi Yisrael. She did a repugnant thing in Am Yisrael, it says by the Namrosa. Nevola Zu. It says here, the Gil franchise, the Vozu Kol Besulas Yisrael. It should be embarrassing to all the Besulas of Am Yisrael, and if they don't do it at a distance, but they do it in the city, to publicize this embarrassment. Similarly, these nose base avia also Yiru. She was essentially against the house of house. Yiru Gedulim Roim Shegidlu. Let them see the bad growth that they grew. Let they and the growth that they grew be degraded. So these are unique halachas. I'm not sure the plus is by Avodah Zarah. By Avodah Zarah it says here, it says Kim Tzabakir B'cha Be'echad Sharecha. So the special halachas by these two averos, in order to stone somebody, take them outside the city. But by these two averos, because in order to demonstrate to others what a terrible thing it is, you do it inside the city next to the basin.
Maybe it's also not to wash their dirty laundry in public, so the other surrounding cities or people passing by.
Well, that's why it says by city of Goyim that you don't do it where the Goyim are around. But in the case where there are no Goyim, so you do it